Hi guys, and welcome to another Bootstrap 4 with brackets text editor tutorial. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Okay, in our last video we pretty much finished with this site, well, desktop version of it anyway. We added a footer and some social media icons using the font Awesome there. What I'm going to do now to kind of wrap this up is I'm going to add a little back to the top button here. I'm going to try and style it like this one. It's not going to pop out like that, but it'll look a bit like that little button there when it's not popped out, just with an arrow pointing to the top of the page. And I'm going to do this with a bit of simple CSS. I'm not going to use JavaScript, so it won't disappear when you get to the top. But it is a useful feature, especially when people are browsing on cell phones. It saves a lot of thumb work for them to get back up to the top. So let's get started with that. Let's open our brackets text editor. Brackets is an absolutely awesome text editor. It's free and you can download it from a link below this video. And if you want to follow along with these videos for this series, I suggest you get this and use it. Like I say, it's free, so it won't cost you anything, and I'm pretty sure you'll love it. Got a spelling mistake there. Fanny Awesome. I don't think that's supposed to say that. That should say font. Font Awesome. There we go. And this is the CDN content delivery network that we pulled in our Font Awesome from in the last video. So here's our Bootstrap 4 site. We're working on our index.html file right here, and we'll also be working on our custom CSS file that's inside our CSS folder there. I've got them both open in my brackets right now. All you need to do is right click and open with brackets once you've got it installed. Or you can do it the usual way with most programs, just open the file and navigate to it. So let's just save that. Let's go back down to the bottom where we left off last time. Here we go, there's that footer section. So let's start a new div. I'm not going to give it a section, and I'll give it a class name so we can target it with some CSS of, let's call it BTT, back to top. Back to top. That'll do. And may as well just use a Font Awesome icon again, seeing as we've got them installed. So let's go to the Font Awesome site, which I've still got up here, I believe. That's where we got our code for Font Awesome. Here we go. Here's the actual site itself. Let's go to icons and go to free, and I want an arrow, sort of upward arrow. Use that one right there. And so I just copy all of this code. And to make this work, once I've got it in my HTML here, I'm just going to paste that in there. To make it work with my particular version here, I've got to take off that S at the end, so it's just FA. And the reason for that is, if I go back up to the top, here's our style sheet we're pulling in for Font Awesome from the CDN, and it's 4.7, version 4.7. And if we look at our Font Awesome here, I think we'll find that it's Font Awesome 5, which is the slightly newer version. Let's have a look here. got a new CDN link I can put in there, but I'll use what I'm using now. And over here it says version 5.0.1 or 0.10. So that's the reason. I think it tells us that somewhere. And have a read of this, it tells you how to use it. And up here it says that FA class has been depreciated in version 5 here, and so you've got the FAS. You've got a couple of different versions. You've got a solid and a outline. Have a look here. It's worth having a quick read. But because I'm putting in version 4, I need to just remove the S from there. Here you go. Here it tells you the actual versions. FAS is solid, FAR is regular, FAL is light, FAB are brands. So there you go. That's why I have to delete that S when I'm putting it in our HTML, because of the actual version itself. So let's go back. See, 4.7, that one that we were looking at was 5.1 or 5.01. Okay, so I've forgotten where we was now. Yeah, we made our div and we put our little icon in there. And if we take a look at that, it's not going to look like much at all. So let's do a quick save. In fact, you might not see anything but perhaps a little bar at the bottom of the website there if I do a quick refresh. There you go. You've got a little white bar there. There's that little up arrow that we've put in there. Okay, well that's what we wanted to put in there. We want to make it go over here somewhere. And we want it to stay there. So let's add a bit of CSS. And let's just inspect this. Let's do it with the Chrome Inspector again to try and get it where we want it. Let's roll this up so we can see it. There's our div with the class of BTT back to the top. Okay. First, let's give it a background color so we can see it. Let's use our blue we've been using again. So I'll just copy that. I just right clicked on a bit that was that color. Now if I right click on here, hit inspect again, I'll take us to it. There it is. Now let's go background. Colon, and paste in that color. There we go. It's given us that blue background there, which is exactly what we want. Now, we only want it to be about this wide. May have to make it wider so we can hide a corner. So let's say 50 pixels. Let's try 50 pixels. So width 50 pixels. There we go. You see it's made it 50 pixels wide. And we want to give it a position of fixed because we want to fix it to the side of the right side of our site here. So position fixed, and it's disappeared because we haven't told it where we want it to be. So let's tell it where we want it to be, and I want it to be 0 pixels from the right. So let's go right and 0 pixels. So that tells us it wants to be on the right there. and I want it to be, say, 50 pixels from the bottom. Might change that in a little while. So we'll say bottom 50 pixels. There it is, it's appeared because now we've told it where we want it to be. There it is, 50 pixels from the bottom there. And we want to make sure it stays on top of everything else, so we'll give it a Z index or a Z index. I think it's going to actually work as it is, but just in case, let's give it a Z index of a really high number to make sure that it stays on top of everything else at all times. Now that one was 9999, so let's put this one as 9998. And that should ensure that whatever else we build on top of this, or anything else that's going on this, that should stay on top of it. Okay, so let's copy this and put it into our CSS, because once I refresh, this is non-destructive, it'll go back to how it was. Control C, and let's just refresh that, and as you can see, it's just gone back to how it was. So let's go back to our brackets text editor, to our custom CSS file, and let's give it a title as usual, // and back to top. And we called the class BTT for back to top, so it's class period to target a class back to top. Open and close some curlies, and then paste that code we just copied from the Chrome browser inside there. It's a great thing about Chrome developer tools. I used to use Firebug by Firefox years ago, but I don't know, Chrome's been my browser of choice for a long time, and the developer tools are just fantastic. So let's say that, Control S, back to the site. Now when we refresh, I'll just get the inspector out of the way. That should disappear. It should reappear over here with a blue background. So let's refresh that. And there it is. Alright, so starting to look a little bit like we want it. We want it kind of look like this, or look like that section of this. So let's make that icon white, give it a bit of padding, and make it a little bit larger. So let's target that this time. So I'm going to just right click on it, and just put that there so we can see it with the darker background. That's it, the font, the icon class, the font awesome. So let's give it a color of white, which is FFF. Let's make it bigger, say a font size of, I don't know, try 40 pixels. Yeah, maybe even a bit bigger than that perhaps. Let's make it 45 pixels. Just scrolling with my mouse wheel while I've got it selected there. Yeah, that'll work. Now let's give it a bit of padding each side. So let's say we're only going to give it one attribute. So that will give it padding all round, top, right, bottom and left. Let's give it 5 pixels and see what that looks like. Yeah, that's alright. I think we may want a little bit more there. Yeah, that looks more like it. Okay. So let's just copy that over. Again, we'll copy it, and we've got to target BTT back to the top because that's the class, and inside that div class is the I, so we've got to target BTT I. Let's go back to our CSS file here, and we've got to target the class of BTT, and inside that we've got to target the icon class, the I. And let's paste in that code I just copied. Oh, didn't copy it, look. That's the same code as we did before. So let's undo that, Control Z, go back. Thankfully I hadn't refreshed this page. Let's copy that. Try that again. There we go, it's more like it. Not that that was a lot of code to rewrite, but if there's an easier way, let's do it. Okay, let's save that, go back. We'll refresh this, and it should stay pretty much exactly the same. Okay, so I want to style this to look like this, or certainly to be the same size and similar dimensions to it. So let's put this up closer to this so we can compare them a little easier. Once again, we'll right click and inspect, and we're on the icon. Let's go on the actual div itself because that's what we want to move up. At the moment we're at the bottom, or 50 picks up from the bottom, so I want to say 1, 2, 3, say about 400 picks. It should be closer to that, so let's just change that, move it up. Oops, 4,000 picks. I think I got a little carried away there. 400. Let's even move it up a little bit more. So I want it almost overlapping so I can compare it. You see that's behind that? It's going underneath it. I want it on top of it, or at least on the same level as it. It's because we got Z index of 998, and just to show you, if I change that to 999, it should pull it on the same level or forward. Okay, let's select it first. There we go. See, now it's on top of it. So, gosh, that's pretty much the same. So now what I want to do is we'll give it a border of same as the other one, which I think was 2 pixels solid white of 2 pixels solid, and white, which is FFF. Okay, that is what we want, but this one, if we look at it, it's got a nice rounded radius on the end, and I've got a feeling that was border radius of 10, so let's give that. Yeah, okay, that's done it. Looks like, let's pull this down, that'll pull those down a little bit. We want to hide that edge because we don't want those rounded corners visible. We want it square looking like this. And let's give it a box shadow. Again, I think that was, well, let's just take a look. I think it's 5, 10, 25. Yeah, 5, 10, 25, 5, 5, 5. Well, let's just copy that. That's the easiest way of doing it. That way it'll have a similar box shadow. And we're on the icon, we want to be on the div. Let's just paste that below. Alright. Let's just roll that up. Make sure those edges are similar. Is it? I think it's a sort of 1 pixel behind it. Okay, but let's first get that back up there. Let's first get rid of those corners there, and to do that we need to make it wider. So it's 50. Let's say call it 60 pixels. Select that properly. Select our thing and let's make that about 60 pixels. Again, I'm just rolling up. Okay, now we can drag it back, hopefully enough. Let's make it a little bit more just for safety. Say 65. We've got a bit of room to play with then. Now we can actually put the right position as a minus. I wonder if I can roll. Yeah, I can. Good. Let's just roll it back to where it's in line. I think that looks about right, doesn't it? Yeah, that looks like they're perfectly in line with each other there. That's fine. Now let's put this back down where we wanted it. Let's try and put it in the middle of our footer when it's at the bottom. So bottom, it was 50, that was a little high. Let's try 30. Still a little high, so let's try. I want to go down right about there. Oh, oops. If you go off your little box and scroll, it's going to scroll the whole section there, up, down, down. Say right about there. That works for me. Okay, so I'm just going to copy all this code again. Let's move that back up. And I'm going to overwrite what we've got in there already. Control C to copy. Back to our CSS over here. And it's right here. Let's just overwrite this. And I'll change that back to 998. Save that. Let's get that inspector out of the way again. There we go. So now we've got our back to the top button. And if we scroll up our site, yeah, it's visible. I think what I'd like to do, well, let's actually make it do what we need it to do, which is when you click on it, at the moment it's not doing anything. I want it to shoot it back up to the top of the site. That's the whole point of it. So let's wrap it in an anchor tag back to our brackets, to our index. Here it is. Here's our icon. What we want to do is wrap that in an anchor tag. That's A. Give it href equals, and I'm going to quotations inside there. All I'm going to do is put hashtag, and that should take it straight up to the top of the page. Close it. Now the closing anchor tag, let's cut that, Control X, and put it the other side of our icon there, after the closing icon tag. Now when we click on that, it should roll it back up to the top. So let's save it, Control S, back to the site. Quick refresh. Now when I click on this, it should roll it back to the top. There we go. It's just what we wanted. Let's go back down there. Great. With a lot of back to the top buttons, they use a bit of JavaScript which hides it until you scroll a certain way down the page. I'm not going to bother with JavaScript with this. I'm trying to keep it very simple, so we're just using CSS and HTML. But how about this? How about we make that a little more transparent? And perhaps when you hover on it, it goes solid color like that. So let's just inspect this. Of course, it's your site. You do exactly what you want to do with it, but this is just a thought. Okay, let's just click on the little color there. And here's the opacity slider or transparency slider. Let's take it down. A little bit of color in there, just a little bit. Say to there. So you can actually see what's going on behind it. Okay, and let's just copy that color back to our CSS style sheet. Now here's the color we got here, and it's going to be the same as this color. It's just going to have a couple of extra digits on the end there for the opacity, 7A. Okay, but what we want it to do is when we hover over it, we want it to be the original color, which was the solid color, same as that without the 7A. So let's just underneath here go .btt, which is the div name. Just give it another space there. After that, I want a colon. And really important, hover, but with no space. No space. If you put a space in there, it may not work. And of course, open, close some curlies. Let's just copy this over. Take off those last two, which is the opacity level or the transparency level, whatever you want to call it. Just had another idea. Right, let's save that, go back to the site. Let's close out our inspector here. Now when I refresh, well, that should stay the same actually. See, it's not quite as, you can see everything going through it. What about this though? Because you've still got that box shadow going on with it. We could do the same thing for the icon as well, actually. Let's just inspect that icon. And what I'm thinking is, you know, we got that box shadow which makes it stand out. But how about we take that away and only have it happen when we hover over it? So it's only there when we hover. That way that'll be less intrusive. Let's just inspect this, because let's make that. Let's take the opacity down on this one as well. 70. Well, we may as well use the same amount so we know what it is. So let's do that. Let's take the box shadow off of here unless we're actually hovering over it. So let's go back to our CSS. There's our icon color. Let's just add that 7A to it so it's transparent as well. Oops, wrong place. Don't know if we may need to add the other 6 Fs with that. Yeah, I think we do. So, because FFF is white, that's because there's 6 of the same. You only need to do 3. But as we're adding that extra bit on the end, we need to put all 6 in there. So, what have we got going on here? Regularly, it's going to be transparent, and let's just do this, same as we did with the other one. Just copy that over. And we'll just give it the color of FFF. I want to put the hover on the back of there. No gap. And let's just tidy that up. That's better. So now when we hover over that, that'll be a solid white, transparent when we don't. And what did I say? I'm going to take that box shadow off, so I'm just going to, well, let's just take that off of there and put it on here. So we only get it on hover. Let's have a look at that. Control S to save, back to the site. Let's refresh. There we go. You can see that box shadow's gone from there, and that's pretty transparent still, or transparent. You can still see it, but it's not very intrusive, which is great. But yet when we hover over it, that shadow comes back and everything becomes solid again to indicate that you can do something with it. So there you have it. There's our little CSS styled back to the top button. Very simple version, no JavaScript involved. Just a handy little feature, especially on mobile phones, like I say, on cell phones when you're scrolling through websites, especially these one-page ones. It's a lot of thumb work to get back up to the top once you've been scrolling down. That makes life a lot easier. So there you have it. That's how to add a CSS back to the top button, or CSS and HTML back to the top button, to your Bootstrap website. I hope you found that useful. If you have, please like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're interested in web development, take one of our courses below. We've got some huge discounts for our YouTube subscribers, and there's also some great free courses down there. So take a look. Once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.